We continue our player profile series. This time we take a look at what is supposed to be a foundation member in Mark Williams. What went right, what went wrong, and what's next. Plus, we rummage through the Sicko Satchel. I promise this time. Today, Locked On Hornets.
You are Locked On Hornets, your daily Charlotte Hornets podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
In a minute, cuz we live.
It is Locked On Hornets, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. It's your team every day. Thanks for making us your first listen. We're free and available anywhere you get your pods, and that includes YouTube. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. That's $150 with any winning $5 bet. Just $5. Visit FanDuel.com/LockedOn to get started. There's Doug Branson. You can find him on his Substack, EveryHornetsBoxscore.com. There you can also find his sub-text information. And I'm Walker Mehl. Listen to me on WFNZ every weekday from 12 to 3 p.m. on Wes and Walker, Sports Radio 92.7 FM. Let's do the player profile series. We got hot and bothered about no coach yesterday. And one of the things that we discussed, go ahead, Doug.
By the way, we did a whole coaching search thing. And we talked about all these jobs that were opening up and potential jobs that could open up. And we forgot one team, which is the Clippers. Could be looking for a new coach. If Ty Lue ends up going to going across down to the Lakers, then all of a sudden now you're competing with the Clippers as well. So this situation, a lot of good jobs opening up because some talented teams got bounced in the first round. By the way, if you're Brandon Miller, maybe pick a GOAT that can make the second round. Just saying.
Yeah, Paul George slander. Probably welcomed by a lot of people except for Brandon Miller. So Brandon Miller is a foundation piece. We know LaMelo is supposed to be. They gave him a monster rookie extension because of that. They felt about him that way. And Mark Williams, Doug, I think most people would tell you that those are the three guys that you're looking forward to the most. Miles Bridges is an unrestricted free agent. We'll see what happens with him. I know he's polarizing. A lot of people want him to return. But if you're talking about young talent that has shown us something and shown us something nice on the court, I think it's Mark Williams, LaMelo Ball, and Brandon Miller. Mark Williams is last on that list. There's no doubt. And he's also, even despite LaMelo not playing many games the last two seasons, man, Mark even played less than that. Now, if you go back and you go to his rookie season, part of the reason Mark Williams wasn't playing was because Steve Clifford didn't think that he was ready. And then in the second half, that's when Mark really started to get some playing time. This year, Mark didn't play because he was injured and he had a back injury. And that's something that you don't want to hear about your young center, Doug. Talk about paranoid and frustrated. Everybody is concerned. He only played 19 games, just 19 this year. In those 19 games, he averaged 12.7 points per contest. He averaged 9.7 rebounds, 4 offensive rebounds per game, which was one of the best marks, especially per 36 in the league. Shot 71.9% from the free throw line, 64.9% from the field and on twos because he did not attempt one single three-pointer. And he averaged just over a block per game.
Should have mashed that under from the preseason. He said he was going to get 10. I should have mashed it.
We try to focus on the positive in these player profiles. Let's focus on the positive with what you saw in just under 20 games of action for Mark. Doug, what did you see that you liked despite the small sample size?
Yeah, I mean, he had a 20-20 game against Washington. You know, he showed you what he could do when he's active on the boards. Well, I can kind of spin that into a negative, and I probably will when we get to that piece as well. But, I mean, the problem with doing the positives is that all my positives are things that I saw glimpses of at the end of the previous season to this one, before he got the thumb injury, which is, look, I mean, the dude runs the floor super well. I think one of the slight differences that I saw this season is he ran the floor and like quickly sealed off guys and used that advantage of his length and to get down the floor quickly. And again, a lot of that was like he was playing a little bit more with LaMelo Ball before he got injured. And so, you know, there were just little wrinkles, but I just didn't get to see enough wrinkles or enough expansion of the game because you only got 19. But I mean, he's not doing much passing. You know, he's good screener, but not doing much 3-point shooting. It's just like you're really there's so much that's a mystery about how much he can expand his game, or is he just a guy that is going to scare a few guards out of the paint? You're not going to run the offense through him, although I saw some good pick and roll action from him this season, and they were getting him a little bit more involved that way. But so much of the offense has to be made for him and not through him. So yeah, it's just difficult when there's only 19 games to pick out a ton of positives, other than like he is as advertised.
Yeah, I was a little bit of a roller coaster with Mark Williams. First game, remember, he was excellent against Atlanta in that victory. Mm-hmm. He was so good. He provided this team a rim protector, and everybody was real excited. The next handful of games, not as physical. He wasn't bad. Just we didn't see the growth that we wanted to see on a consistent basis. The next handful, maybe even 10 games. I mean, I guess now we're talking about halfway through a season at that point. But he still gave me enough flashes to be excited. But, Doug, I'll admit, it didn't happen with the level of consistency that I had hoped for, despite him only playing 19 this season. Here's what the good was for me. I think he matters, and I think he actually matters a lot when he's out there on the court to this team's defense. You look at the off-on numbers the last couple of years. You look at the points per possession allowed to the opposition. It is much better with him on the floor. He's in the 76th percentile this past season, 89th his rookie season. I've said it a million times. I think being that smart, that big, that long, that alone is going to give you at least an 8-year long career as long as you're healthy in the NBA. It's hard to fail like that. Offensively, remember how crazy he was efficiency-wise at the very beginning of the season? He had that record of shooting at a certain clip, and it was a record compared to any other NBA player in NBA history for that short amount of time. I forget what it was. But if you look at what he was posting at the very beginning of the year, he goes 5 of 6, 1 of 4 against Detroit, 8 of 8, 3 of 4, 9 of 12, 8 of 8, 5 of 5, and then November 10th against Washington, he goes for 21 and 24, but he was 10 of 21. So it still wasn't even like as, yes, 2020 game, that's a great stat, but he was 10 of 21. Like the efficiency took a nosedive compared to it being like at 80 for every other game. So I think he's a legitimate finisher around the rim. Like, I don't think he's soft when finishing around the rim, but he does finish with finesse. Like, he gets by with whatever you want him to. He is an amazing offensive rebounder, Doug. Like 96th percentile according to Cleaning the Glass. The percentage was totally legit last couple of years. There's enough for me to be very excited about what this player could become long term. But boy, this injury is something that we're going to always have to use as a caveat, especially when you only play 20 games.
Well, because, I mean, he had the setback with a thumb injury that affected the summer. Yep. And then now with this, I mean, it's games not played. And with the back injury, it's even worse because there's probably some things that he could have been doing, you know, with other injuries that he couldn't do with the back injury. And so, yeah, I mean, you know, you're going to be hoping that Mark Williams comes back fully healthy, just showing you the things that you were excited about when he was drafted. I mean, you're probably going to throw out all of these. You should throw out all these expectations of expansions of his game, and you just want him to be the rebounding, block shot force and efficient guy around the rim because he doesn't make mistakes around the rim offensively. I said that in that short little block that we got his first season, and he kind of carried that over. Like when he gets the ball in his hands, he doesn't often turn it over, and he doesn't often miss. The problem is if he's not, you know, if he's push shot right outside the lane, if he has to hook shot it, if he has to do anything except catch the ball right at the rim and yam it, it's not great.
The problem is, I think that's more design, though. Like, if you even look at the frequency, he's just not taking those shots. And I think that's all by design. Like, he's not taking anything outside of the restricted area. And I think if you watch the offense with this team, when LaMelo and Mark were in there, like, I really did not like the fact that he just refused. And I think this was by design with coaching. There just wasn't any pick and pop stuff. And he has the touch. Like, he is a decent enough free throw shooter. Over 70% at that size, I'll take it. I can't help but go back to the Phoenix game last year against Kevin Durant. Yeah, he got blocked. That's because Kevin Durant has some of the freakier, longer arms that we've ever seen at that position. But also, Mark made a couple of jumpers. Even if it's not a three-point shot, Doug, the 15 to 17-footer, that could be a part of the arsenal to just give LaMelo a little more room, give anybody more room. Like, I still think that's there, and I don't think we saw it. And I hope this next coach actually uses that more. Give me 1 to 2 jumpers a game, but even just one, it's better than 0. So, yeah, we can get to some of the negative stuff later on, but I still think it's there. But you're right. We did not see it at all. We didn't see makes, but that's because in large part, we didn't even see attempts from 15 feet out.
I'll say one of the other positives is that people are still talking about him as if he is part of the core. I mean, people could be saying, and we would be saying that, I think, if in those 19 games, that sample size, he would have been awful and then gotten injured. He wasn't awful. You're right. He was inconsistent. Like both of his offensive efficiency and his activity on the boards was inconsistent, but he wasn't awful. And so people are still, talking about him as if he's an essential piece.
Part of it's because we don't have anything else, and we're hoping. But you're right. That's true. All right, let's move on.
Yeah, I was going to say, if they take Klingon or they take Sar, then all of a sudden that conversation is very fragile.
Okay, let's go to the Sicko Satchel. Coming up next on the Locked On Hornets podcast.
Don't go to sleep on the Hornets just yet.
Something we promised but didn't really get to the last episode. We're making sure that we put it in the meat of the show. We will ask a bunch of the questions that Doug has high praise for. He thinks the Sicko Satchel really delivered this time around. So that's a credit to you people. We appreciate it. We give you the shine. Coming up next, Locked On Hornets. Before we rummage through the Sicko Satchel, I want to tell you that this episode is brought to you by BetterHelp. Sometimes we all need the opportunity to get something off of our chest, big or small, and certain things can really start to get to you. It's important to let that out, especially to someone who is unbiased on your life. I feel like we had a therapy session about the coaching search in the last episode, and so maybe BetterHelp could have helped with that. Therapy can be different for everyone, and most of us have bigger problems than our favorite sports team, and it's important to get those things off of your chest every once in a while. If you're thinking of starting therapy, give BetterHelp a try. It's entirely online, designed to be flexible and suited to your schedule, and you can visit BetterHelp.com/LockedOnNBA to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, H-E-L-P, BetterHelp.com/LockedOnNBA. More Locked On Hornets ahead. You are the keeper of the Sicko Satchel, sir. You are very excited about this Sicko Satchel. I know yesterday you said they really came with it when you asked the people to send in some questions. What kind of questions do we have today, Doug?
Before we get to these questions, which are really good, I have to start with my own sickness. And my own sickness is being jealous of the Miami Heat. It is, and of the Oklahoma City Thunder, but this is going to be about the Heat. So Pat Riley got in front of cameras today and did his, end of season press conference, and whoo boy, did he have some things to say, cranky old man style, about his own team, about his own players, saying something to the effect of, if you're not in the playoffs, if you're not playing, then you got to shut your mouth, in response to Jimmy Butler trolling the Boston Celtics. And then here he is on Tyler Hero, courtesy of our friend Wes Goldberg from the Locked On Heat podcast, at WC Goldberg on Twitter. Quote, this is on Tyler Hero. Quote, he played 42 games this year. He's been fragile a little bit. There's nobody who works harder on his game, but he's got to make some adjustments on his body. And Walker, this is why I'm sick. This is why I'm jealous. Because Pat Riley, the Hornets need a Pat Riley. They need a cranky old man. That wasn't Mitch Kupchak. They had an old man. They didn't have a cranky old man. They have an honest old man who yelled honest things at clouds. That's what the Hornets need, because you need, and I've said this over and over, if you want to make positive changes in your organization, you have to be honest about what the problems are. And here is Pat Riley telling one of his best players, you've got to make some adjustments on your body. And the Hornets have a bit of a fragile player on their hands right now, one of their star players, who they're about to pay a lot of money to, just like the Heat are paying a lot of money to Tyler Hero, and that guy is named LaMelo Ball. And no one seems to want to be honest about the things that are happening with LaMelo Ball in this organization. I would like some honesty. I want some old men, some cranky old men.
Yeah, the question is, Mitch Kupchak is honest. You're right about that.
He wasn't. No, I know. He was not honest. He was not honest at all.
Well, I guess in being forthright about what's going on in the injury room. But Steve Clifford, while he didn't tell the public, Steve Clifford, we know what he can do. I don't think Steve Clifford was holding back on the problems that he thinks this team has, so much to where he didn't want to coach him anymore. But we also know that in practice,
it's the most honest thing you can do is just quit.
What do you want him to do, man? Yeah, he's quite literally putting the head coaching money where his mouth is, and that he doesn't think he can do this anymore. And so he steps down before maybe the Hornets as a franchise were ready for him to step down. So this hits home because of specifically what Pat Riley said about Tyler Hero, because it is so applicable to a star player here in Charlotte. I think that's what we're looking at, because Jimmy Butler, like, to be fair to Jimmy just a little bit, it's not like Jimmy is all that wrong. Jimmy, in that span, post-Heatles, really saved that franchise from cap hell, overpaying for Tyler Johnson and Hassan Whiteside, and getting that team to the NBA Finals in a bubble season and in a year where they got to the play-in tournament and still found themselves. Like, Jimmy might be right. I don't think he would have been, but if he would have played, who knows? He's proven it before. I digress. The thing is, I think we pay attention as Hornets fans to that Tyler Hero comment, and we're like, hey, hello, that seems like it should be said here in the city of Charlotte.
The only way you build a culture of any kind, whether it's Heat culture, Hornets culture, whatever culture, the only way you build that culture is through honesty. And you build that culture with fans through honesty about talking about what the issues are and then how you're going to solve them. Because if you skip the honesty part and you just say how you're going to suddenly win a championship or compete or whatever, then nobody believes you. And especially if you fail time and time again, which this franchise has done, then and no one's honest the whole way through. Well, it's this thing, it's that thing, it's not the real thing, which is that this organization has not been committed to doing the things that other organizations are committed to doing to put a roster out such that you can go out and compete. Okay, here's my sickness.
I mean, how honest do they need to be in the public is my question, but we can only take what they say in the public because we are the public. So
if they had Pat Riley, I'll tell you, they'd be a lot more honest in public.
They absolutely would be. All right, Sicko Satchel time. What you got, Doug?
QCT asks, what are reasonable expectations for next season? I'm sick, so I think we have a shot at making the playoffs, not the play-ins, the playoffs, but it is reasonably the play-in or even an 11 seed that we would be happy with. Would you be happy with an 11 seed, Walker?
No, I'd be frustrated because that means injuries hurt this team, and it feels like they have a real chance this offseason to do something to help them get into that next level. Think about what an 11 seed would mean for this team. That means probably another injury-laden season for LaMelo Ball. That means probably something very similar to Mark Williams. You either brought Miles Bridges back and he performed to a similar level and he wasn't ready to take a step up in the absence of LaMelo, or it means that you used the Miles Bridges money for a couple of other pieces to come over and help, and that didn't really quite work. So an 11 seed I wouldn't be happy with. What I would expect is realistically get to the freaking play-in tournament, and at the high end, it would be parlay the play-in tournament into a playoff appearance. Not a top 6 spot overall. I don't expect that at the regular season. If you're going to reach the playoffs, I think it's going to have to be through the play-in tournament, but I would be okay with that, and I think that's the high-end realistic option.
My hair wants that not to happen. Here's the thing. My budget for sunscreen is going to have to go up if that's the case.
That seems.
I have fair skin. I can't imagine what's underneath all that hair. Here's the thing on this. Adam Silver is a genius. The NBA, they're geniuses because we're sitting here talking about 11 seeds. And I remember a time when the Hornets were constantly making the 8 seed, and that was frustrating to everyone. Oh, we're the 8 seed. We're always the 8 seed.
We were the 9 seed. Yeah.
Right. Now if we get the 8 seed, we'll throw a ticker tape parade, a trade and try on. We're celebrating the 8 seed. Oh, the NBA, Adam Silver, you genius, you. I guess I'm with you, Walker. Yeah, my reasonable expectation is honestly, I will even say my reasonable expectation is make the play-in and don't get blown out by 30 points.
That's the other part of this. Yeah.
It starts there.
Okay, what's another question you have?
Avarisk asks, what are the odds that Ashley Shahamady leaves in the offseason? How dope is LaMelo's Rare 1 tattoo? Who do we take with our second-round pick?
Wow.
Would you take a former Charlotte player as head coach? If so, who do you think would be best? It's rapid fire.
Okay. I'm going to try to go off memory.
Odds.
Very good.
Wow. How dope is LaMelo's Rare 1 tattoo?
It is detailed and intricate.
It is a lot of tattoo. That's my only opinion. I don't have a single tattoo. That's a lot of tattoo.
Hey, my theory on tattoos, man, while you're young and if you're showing off the body, now's the time. Nobody wants you to get like, oh, you know what? It's late in my life. I'll get a tattoo at 50. So now's the time, man. Show off.
Who do we take with our second-round pick?
Harrison Ingram. That would be my default answer.
Zach Edey. That's the only other. I had to name another player. It's the only other that's projected in that. I mean, I know a lot of players that are in the first round, but Zach Edey. Or Bronny, but Bronny's going in the first round. Would you take a former Charlotte player as head coach? If so, who do you think would be best?
Tony Bennett?
How about, I'm going to throw one at you. He's already on, well, I mean, I don't know anymore, but he was on the staff. Marvin Williams. I think
Marvin Williams is, yeah.
I don't know if he's ready now, but I think that happens at some point. Like, that would not shock me at all if Marvin Williams, if he's motivated to remain on coaching. The next move for him, because he was kind of like a consultant, I think, and it's unfortunate that Clifford is not moving to another organization, that he could kind of take Marvin along. And, I don't know if Marvin's going to stay with the Hornets, but I could totally see Marvin Williams.
Yeah, I like Marvin Williams better. I'm going with the safe route of, even if he's in college, Tony Bennett, like being a coach that's successful. But yeah, after losing in the first round again, maybe not. Maybe Marvin Williams is the right answer. You want to do one more rapid fire real quickly, or do we move on?
Amber asks, which current Hornets should report to Summer League? Has Brandon Miller clipped out and not need it, or would he benefit from it?
It feels like Brandon will go and play like a game or two and then be done.
Really?
I mean, not because he needs it. It just feels like we see that from stars. I don't know. If so, he doesn't need it. He doesn't need it. Do I think he will? Perhaps a game, but I think that's about it. Like, I don't even think.
Brandon was durable in the rookie season, but he did have a few issues. If this were a Hornets team that over the past 2 seasons had not had, one of, if not like bottom 3 worst injury issues in the league, then I would say, yeah, you let him play a couple games. Playing games can't hurt, even though he's a locked-in starter. Playing games can't hurt his development. But I'm saying put him in a glass case. Don't let him get anywhere near Vegas.
Plus, if they're just going to do
Brandon
the whole,
could force the issue. He could say, "Look, I want to be with my young guys." I don't know.
Plus, if they're just going to do the whole no point guard thing, then what are we really learning from Brandon Miller? So I don't. Yeah, maybe
but
self-creation.
NSJ for sure. Want to see where he is.
Bryce McGowan's will go back again. This will be his third year.
Talking about he's like a 60-year senior now.
It feels like it. Yeah, even though it would be his third year, it does feel like it. Bryce McGowan's, NSJ, James Najee. Yes, please. More James Najee in my life. That's what I will be excited about the most. All right, that'll do it for the Sicko Satchel. Coming up next on the Locked On Hornets podcast.
Don't go to sleep on the Hornets just yet.
We get to the bad stuff with Mark Williams, what went wrong, and we do discuss what's next with Mark Williams as well. That's still to come. Last segment, Locked On Hornets. This episode is brought to you by DoorDash. You can get 50% off your next order, up to $15 when you spend $15+ on your next flour, convenience, grocery, or retail order now on DoorDash. Plus, Mother's Day, it's coming up. If you want to make your mom smile, you can start Mother's Day with flowers or any kind of surprise with DoorDash, and you can surprise her with gifts from the brands that she loves, the stores that she loves. DoorDash is the place for you. Again, you can get all of your Mother's Day gifts all in one place. Get 50% off your next order, up to $15 when you spend $15+ on your next flour, convenience, grocery, or retail order now with code LOCKEDONNBA. That's LOCKEDONNBA. Order using DoorDash today. Terms apply. More Locked On Hornets ahead. Had some what went right. We looked through the positives with Mark Williams. Doug, where do you want to start with what went wrong? I know it starts with the injuries, only 19 games. The back injury is bad. If you want to lead off from there, then take us through, a painful journey. What you got?
Well, I said that I was going to spin one of my positives into a negative, and one of those positives was the 2020 game that he had against Washington. The problem was that they were playing small a lot of that game, and he was going up against he wasn't going up against Gafford for that entire context. And in fact, Gafford, in that, if you go back and watch that game, Gafford ate his lunch a few times. Like still, the same storyline existed, and this is why I say 19 games disappointing, because I wanted to see if this would fix itself eventually over the course of a season. Clifford talks all the time about how guys from your rookies to your sophomores to the veterans of veterans have to go from game 1 to game 82 and improve all along the way, if you want to be a playoff team. And so I was looking for that for Mark Williams, and we didn't get to see it. One of the things I didn't get to see was him go up against a big physical lineup and come away with, 13, 14, 15 rebound. I mean, the closest was, when he went up against, when he would go up against Bam in both of these seasons. But I'm always like, look, Bam doesn't want any in the paint. He's people think he's like this, and he's a physical specimen, but I don't think he's as physical a player as people give him credit for.
Okay. He did have you look at Mark Williams, I'd probably go with the Boston game is what's referenced a lot, but you're right, Doug. Like this has been something where, and even Kristaps is a stretch five. Like they're a big team, but as far as having the true post presence, it's not like Mark Williams really got that. Yeah, that's I think the next step in his development. The defensive rebounding, the offensive rebounding is great. I think when you look at his defensive rebounding, it wasn't very good last season, and I think that's one of the bigger issues here. I think when you're talking about just the physicality, that's where it starts, and he can get pushed off of his spot. I think he's smart. I think he knows where to be, but especially a player like Gafford, who's just so damn physical, man. He's good. I've always loved Gafford, and he's really balling out right now with Dallas.
Mm-hmm.
But it's that type of also, physicality, athleticism, some of these difference makers at the center spot. Does he challenge them enough to compete with those guys? And you're just always going to have the advantage with those post-up scorers, and it's going to be an issue for him. I think some of the negatives, I'll go back to what I said in the first segment. I do think it's because of their style of offense that we saw a limited role from him. Really what they're asking him to do is – they're not even running a ton of pick and roll with him. At least maybe not as much as I would want with LaMelo at times. The pick and pop I've talked about, but even the passing. Doug, I think Mark Williams is actually a good passer. I just don't think we see it. What happens is he's down low, and here I am, point blank after an offensive rebound. Hell yeah, I'm going to score. Especially with Steve Clifford, he's not telling me to kick that thing out. He's telling me to go up strong with it to try to score and or with the finesse. And so I think that the ability is there. Some tertiary emergency playmaking, I think, is there for Mark, but we haven't seen it a lot. I go back to Steve Clifford at his exit day interview. Remember, one of the regrets that Clifford had was, not experimenting as much in drop coverage with Mark Williams. Mm-hmm. And I think that was something that was interesting, saying, it felt like Clifford was trying to figure out how to use him. And I think when he went back and watched the film, I don't think he was a huge fan. I think he wanted to experiment a little more and expand upon his game. And we'll see if the other coach does that. But that was interesting to me. That was one of the few regrets. And the thing that he mentioned multiple times was his usage of Mark Williams and just trying to figure that out because he sees something very useful there, just maybe not in the best way that he used.
He wanted to, you're saying he wanted to put Mark Williams in drop coverage more? Or wanted to put him in drop coverage less?
Yeah, I think he just wanted to experiment more with him and try to figure out what to use with Mark. And that's what he said at exit interview. I need to look up the exact quote, but it was something to that effect of, hey, I would like to use Mark in a different way, maybe if I had a chance to do it over again.
Yeah, because I think, if I remember that correctly, they were really, like all teams are now, super aggressive on pick and rolls, a lot of blitzing, a lot of switching. I mean, that's sort of what every team seems to be getting to now. And that wouldn't seem to favor Mark's game. He can hang a little bit above the 3-point line, but he's a shot blocker. And so dropping him a little bit more would have probably played into his strengths a bit more. But everybody wants to switch. Everybody wants to be aggressive to prevent those guards from getting it in the middle, from getting it kicked out to the corner, from just somebody pulling up from way beyond the 3-point line. That how you defend that, and how everybody's defending that now, is by switching and being super aggressive up top on the pick and rolls. And so, and which is funny because Clifford loved to drop. Clifford was the drop king in his first run with the Hornets, but then the whole earth shifted on everyone. So that's interesting.
Well, yeah, and maybe I have that wrong, man. I just know, as far as the experimenting with Mark, I know that Steve Clifford talked about using him differently defensively and trying a few different things with him. But we'll see. Should
have hung around, Steve, if you wanted to do that.
No, that's
Should
right.
have left us, Dad.
Any other negatives that you wanted to point to about what he needs to work on with his game, or is it basically like battling down low and also seeing where his offense can stretch? Like how the 3-point shot,
he's got to shoot at some point. If he doesn't shoot, and he's not like a super physical guy underneath, what are you? I'll tell you what you are. You're a backup center. You're a utility role player. And so that the big question for Mark Williams next season will be, does he transform into, this guy could start on a playoff team? Or is it like, this guy's a utility role player. He's the guy that you bring in when you need a little bit more length, a little bit more shot blocking, but you know you're going to take some negatives in terms of his inability to shoot the basketball at all. But with the back thing, that's why the back thing is so like, because if it had been something else, maybe he could have worked on shooting, but I don't know that you can do anything. I don't know how much you can do at all with the back issue. I'm not sure if that's something where you can get out there and work on your shooting a lot. I don't know. It's a tough thing.
Yeah, it is. All right, that'll do it for Locked On Hornets.
I got one more sicko thing before we get out of here. You want it?
That's right. Yes, please. What do you got?
And it has something to do with what we talked about earlier, the coaching search. Former Hornets, guy we didn't mention, Cole writes in and says, I'm not sure if we would ever have any interest in coaching in the future, if he would ever have any interest in coaching in the future. But all this coaching talk has me wondering if you guys think Kemba Walker would be a good coach for the Hornets someday, even if it's just as an assistant. What do you think, Kemba coming back to the franchise as a coach?
I'll take Kemba, sure. I have no clue how good of a coach he would be, but I'll take him. I'll experiment. We kind of owe him, right? It's either let him be a head coach or put his jersey in the Raptors. Either one. Whatever one he doesn't do, then give him the other one. That's what I would say.
It's all like, what does he want? Does he want to do that? I mean, he wasn't a super vocal guy. So what are his communication skills with roster? He was a lead by doing guy, a lead by example guy, and when you're a coach, you gotta have to lead by yapping and by I mean, he's super smart, so he can analyze the game. Maybe he would be an asset in terms of just scouting. And maybe in terms of working with guards, like specifically point guards, you could have a point guard guru, that could be, one-on-one sort of thing. But like as an assistant, maybe I don't know. It would all have to depend on his desire. And he also has one more question, Walker, and it's bringing back this timeless debate from the Sicko Satchel to see if anyone's changed their opinion. Would you rather fight off a chicken every time you get in your car?
Oh, yes.
Or would you rather fight an orangutan once a year at any given moment? Chicken every time or orangutan once a year?
I think we disagreed on this. I think I went with the chicken just because I know how strong orangutans are. Like, if it gets a hold of you, then you're done. Bye. We'll see you. Never. The chicken, I know it's going to be brutal. I know it's not fun every time I have to drive. Like, I'm going to try to find other forms of transportation. But at least I know I'm not going to die in a chicken fight. I could absolutely die with an orangutan.
Okay, see, I don't know if either we didn't disagree and maybe you're misremembering that, or one of us has changed our opinion since then, because I agree with you. I'm taking the chicken battle because even if I lose that battle, I'm probably not going to die. I'm going to have a very bad day, but I'm not going to die. With an orangutan...
I think you disagreed with this last time. We'll have to go check the tape. I think maybe you were just being different to be different, but I think you advocated to fight the orangutan on a yearly basis.
Oh, okay. Well, maybe fatherhood has changed me then. maybe I look down the barrel of my own mortality, because that's what happens when you have a kid. The moment the kid comes out, you go, "Oh, I'm going to die someday," and because the circle of life is smashing you in the face. And so, yeah, maybe I've changed my opinion, but because if you fight the orangutan, and you have to fight it once a year, that's the thing. In this scenario, if you kill the orangutan, it doesn't matter. The orangutan, some other orangutan is going to come back once a year, and you can't put it on your calendar. It's going to disrupt your day in a way that could be fatal, whereas the chicken, yes, it's annoying, but it's something, again, we are highly adaptable as a species, and we would adapt to chicken fighting every day in our car. We would figure it out. You can't adapt to orangutan fighting you once a year, and you don't know when it's going to happen. People, this is an easy question.
Plus, I see dinner after every time I fight that damn chicken.
Yeah.
And
now,
the other thing is, it's not a rooster. Maybe I would think about it if it was a rooster. Roosters are mean, but a chicken, I'll fight a chicken. I'll fight a chicken.
Now, could we hire this orangutan as the head coach? I don't know. I'm spitballing here. Would the orangutan consider being the head coach of the Charlotte Hornets? I don't know.
I would love it. Yeah. I'm trying to think of a joke on the fly. Maybe you can while I give us the outro. That'll do it for Locked On Hornets. Thanks for making us your first listen.
The joke is that the Hornets don't have a head coach. That we're about to do the NBA draft lottery, and the Hornets once again don't have a coach.
Thanks for making us your first listen. We're free and available anywhere you get your podcast, including YouTube. Also, make sure you go check out Doug on his Substack, everyhornetsboxscore.com. There you can also find his sub text information. Also, I'm Walker Mehl. Listen to me, WFNZ, every weekday from 12 to 3 p.m. Have a great rest of your day. We'll be back with you tomorrow.